And we've been led to believe that our health breakdowns happen suddenly. But that truth is that the disease has been brewing silently inside us for a long time before it actually shows. It's if you had a fire. When it's disease is all about inflammation. So when you have inflammation, it's like a smoldering fire. It's just you see a little bit of smoke. It might be just before you put a fire out at night. If you did a campfire, it's that the ashes that are just still warm to touch, they're not cold yet. That is how it starts. This is how disease starts. And we don't know it, we don't see it. But it's this little smoldering fire that's going on. And if we don't do anything about it, eventually it turns into a bigger fire and it ends up becoming a 5-alarm blaze. And that's when we know we have it. And this is the same, like cancer is like that. A lot of times the cancer has been in your body for many years, 10 or more years, before you actually see it come out in that 5-alarm blaze. And so one of the root causes is a slow, silent drain of our nourishment. And so if you think about a bank account and you take your bank account and you have a nourishment bank account, we start off with a pretty hefty bank account. We get built up when we're young. And if we don't keep feeding in the nourishment and the nutrients, over time, that bank account is going to go down. And on the other side, we have this bank account. We also have this other bank account, which is our toxins in our system. And we start off, I hate to say we don't start off with a zero balance of toxins, not in this world, but we start off with toxins, but over time, those toxins build. So we have these two bank accounts, one that's going down, and the other one, that's the nutrients going down. And then there's the other one that's going up, which is our toxin level. And this is how we get chronic disease. This is how the smoldering fires eventually turn into a 5-alarm blaze, because our body can't cope with the low level of nutrients and the high level of toxins in our body. I want to welcome everyone today to our webinar. I am so pumped up to talk to you today about the Rooted Reboot. Now, we just finished the Rooted in Real Health Summit, and it's like the whole idea of being rooted, it just means so much to me in terms of rooted in grounding, rooted in our past. There's so much that we can learn from our past and also from grounding. And I excited to share some of the things that I have been learning as well. And this is about stopping running on empty and coming back to your body and being rooted. And so this webinar is about 90 minutes. I want to say it's not just another health webinar. This is about reconnection. And this is for women. Usually for me, it's women who are over 40. Maybe you're feeling disconnected, exhausted, overwhelmed by the wellness noise. There's so much out there. And this is an opportunity for you to understand you're not broken. You're just wired for safety and your nervous system is doing its job. Now, if you're looking for a quick fix, this is not the place to be, because we're not talking about a quick fix. We're talking about being rooted in sustainable health. That's the whole idea, is looking for sustainable health in this situation. Is it okay if I tell you a little bit about me and where I come from, a little bit about my story? All right. Thanks, Carol. Trying to get my chat working. Let me see if I can get so I can see my chat. There it is. All right. So I turned 65 in April, and I am very proud of that. I wear it, I own it. I am very proud of the years that I have behind me. And I'm also very proud of the fact that I feel great. I've never felt better in my life. My trajectory is just I'm getting better, not older. And so that makes me feel really good. Now, I'm not perfect, but I'm feeling like I'm in a good place. And I am excited to be here with you because I can share some of the story and the journey that I went through, because it wasn't always this way. I wasn't always feeling great. As a matter of fact, there was a time in my life, I think if I turn back the clocks about 15 years, I started on my journey then, and I started to realize that I was in this place where I was on the treadmill of life. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know who I was. I was a mother to my kids. I have four beautiful daughters. And at the time, they were probably mostly teenagers. They're now all grown up. And thankfully, my kids didn't give me too much trouble when they were teenagers, because that's like the trouble time with four girls. And by the way, there's only 6.5 years between all four of them. So I was looking for trouble there, but everything was good. My kids took it easy on me, I think. But anyway, I had four girls. That was very busy. I also had a demanding job. I was working in a crazy demanding job. I worked probably 50 to 60 hours a week. And I was busy being busy. And I realized that my marriage was failing. And I was just doing everything I could just to keep going. And I kept thinking that if I keep running harder and faster and harder and faster, maybe I'll get to the end. Maybe things will get better. And they didn't. What ended up happening is I started to have some health challenges. I started to have trouble getting up in the morning. I couldn't walk on my feet. I was having headaches. Literally, every day I'd wake up with a headache, and I could tell how bad it was by if I tipped my head forward, how much my head was pounding. There were days when I couldn't get out of bed. I remember one day I was in the dark in my room, and this wasn't a migraine. This is like tension type headaches. So I'm in the dark, I'm in bed, and my husband came in. No wonder my marriage was failing. My husband came in and said to me, "Can you just take a shower and feel better?" I can't even get out of bed, or I might throw up all over everything. So this is the kind of life I was living. And I realized at that point I needed to do something about it. I was very fortunate to have some beautiful people come into my life unexpectedly, but they were teachers for me that I didn't know were coming into my life. I knew two things. One, that if I didn't do something, that things were going to get worse. And the other thing I knew is that it was probably my lifestyle that was causing my all these things. And I wanted to do something about it. I ended up going to a business seminar, not for my work, but because I was trying to find myself and what I wanted to do. And everything pointed to, you don't know who you are. But when I was at this business seminar, the keynote speaker was talking about sugar. And it was like the guy was just talking one-on-one with me. He was talking about all of the things sugar does inside our body. And I knew sugar wasn't good for me. I thought of sugar as empty calories, but I didn't realize it was causing so much damage inside my body. And when I realized that kind of was the key to, hey, wake up and do something different. And so I realized I was a sugarholic. I could eat a whole birthday cake by myself, and I like the icing the best. Give me the corner piece with the biggest glob of icing on top. That was me. That was me. And like I said, I needed to make change. And I ended up doing my own reboot. I found a program, a documentary called Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead. You can watch it's on YouTube. What a great little documentary. And the main character, or the main person, had autoimmune disease and was Joe Cross. I think he weighed over 300. He was well over 300 pounds and eating the typical standard fare: pizza, hot dogs, burgers, all those fast food things. And he went on a juice reboot, lost a bunch of weight, got off of all his medications. And what that did for me is it told me that I had hope to reverse all the stuff that was going on in my life. And so I decided I was going to do this juice reboot. I didn't have a juicer, but I was committed. I was going to do it. So I did, with just eating vegetables, a little bit of fruit, but mostly vegetables for 2 months. That's all I did. I got off of my sugar addiction. I was totally changed everything. And as a result, I decided to go plant-based. I tried to ditch dairy before, but I couldn't because I was also addicted to cheese. Oh my God, I could eat tons of cheese. And cheese is also addictive. There's casein in cheese, which is like an opiate for our brain. Same thing as sugar. It's all things that make us addicted. And once I did the 2 months and I got off of my sugar and the cheese, I decided I didn't want to reintroduce that back into my life. And I treated it as an addiction. And I always remember, and I always go back to when I quit smoking the first time. And I was probably 3 days in to quitting smoking. And I hadn't been smoking very long. I think I'd been smoking for a year. So it wasn't very long, but I decided I wanted to quit smoking. And I was feeling like, oh, I need a cigarette. And I was like, literally, I was spinning and my lungs were hurting and everything was saying, you need a cigarette. And I lived in Edmonton at the time, and we had this huge mall called West Edmonton Mall in Edmonton. It's 8 blocks, 8 full blocks. So I decided, I was walking around in the mall and I'm going to have a cigarette. Oh, I got to have a cigarette. And then I would say, no, you can't have a cigarette. So I had this tug of war going on with my critic, and my is like the little angel and the devil on my shoulders. It's, oh, you have to have a cigarette. And on the other side, it's no, I've done 3 days. If I don't keep going, all of the 3 days I spent doing this is going to be a total waste. And that's what kept me hanging on. And that's what kept me hanging on to stay away from sugar. And you know what the exciting thing is? I went to a fair in Los Angeles about 2 years later with my daughter. And we went into this candy shop, and literally I had to leave because the smell of the candy was making me nauseous. So I'm here to tell you it is possible. We can make the changes, but I'm also here to tell you that I've spent the last 3 years, really, I think I mentioned I'm writing a book. And as I started writing this book, I started writing this book 2.5 years ago. And I knew enough about the nutrition side, but what was really getting me and started getting me thinking even more is that going plant-based and making changes to your diet for nutrition are actually pretty simple. You just eat the right foods, you eat more plants. It's so easy. But then I'm like, but it's not easy at all. It's simple, but it's not easy. And so that got me thinking. It got me going down the idea of mindset. And I ran into my first mentor on the mindset side. That's Peter Sage. I joined the Elite Mentorship Forum, which totally changed my life. I saw things in a different way. We broke down all those limiting beliefs and all those things around emotions and rebuilt it up. Amazing program. Then I started looking even more. And what I realized is that there are so many things that we can look at. And we're not broken. We're just in this hustle culture that is some of these things around what we learn and about nutrition, what we learn about our fitness and our wellness actually are designed to keep us sick because we keep coming back for more in this trillion-dollar industry. And so I've been doing so much learning about different things. And I want to talk to you today about what I've learned and what I have to say. And excuse me, what you'll come away from today. I'm really excited about the information that I have to share with you. You'll walk away knowing why your body hasn't been responding to those diets, to those hacks, and those resets, and what will finally work for you. It's not about the generic wellness plans that, by the way, are all based on male biology, had nothing to do with women. It's about the fact that we've been overlooking our nervous system and the role that it plays in keeping us safe. The other thing that we're going to talk about is the fact that we've been ignoring our hormones and the moon cycle. We as women follow the moon cycle. We have totally different hormones than men do. And we're not just mini men. If you all of the, not all, but a lot of the research has been done on men because women are too complicated, by the way. And we'll get into that a little bit more, but we'll talk about how our cycle is so different. It's powerful and something that we should be celebrating instead of people don't celebrate it. And then we're also going to talk about this over reliance on willpower, that hustle culture, get it done, just, yeah, power through, right? That's what a lot of the programs are talking about. And I just want to break all of that down for you today. So if you are ready to get going, put a yes in the chat that you are ready to learn more. Yeah, I see Susan. All right. Okay, let's get going. We're going to start with the first thing is about nutrition. So this is the first part. And we've been led to believe that our health breakdowns happen suddenly. But that truth is that the disease has been brewing silently inside us for a long time before it actually shows. It's if you had a fire. When it's disease is all about inflammation. So when you have inflammation, it's like a smoldering fire. It's just you see a little bit of smoke. It might be just before you put a fire out at night. If you did a campfire, it's that the ashes that are just still warm to touch, they're not cold yet. That is how it starts. This is how disease starts. And we don't know it. We don't see it. But it's this little smoldering fire that's going on. And if we don't do anything about it, eventually it turns into a bigger fire and it ends up becoming a 5-alarm blaze. And that's when we know we have it. And this is the same, like cancer is like that. A lot of times the cancer has been in your body for many years, 10 or more years, before you actually see it come out in that 5-alarm blaze. And so one of the root causes is a slow, silent drain of our nourishment. And so if you think about a bank account and you take your bank account and you have a nourishment bank account, we start off with a pretty hefty bank account. We get built up when we're young. And if we don't keep feeding in the nourishment and the nutrients over time, that bank account is going to go down. And on the other side, we have this bank account. We also have this other bank account, which is our toxins in our system. And we start off, I hate to say we don't start off with a zero balance of toxins, not in this world, but we start off with toxins, but over time, those toxins build. So we have these two bank accounts, one that's going down, and the other one, that's the nutrients going down. And then there's the other one that's going up, which is our toxin level. And this is how we get chronic disease. This is how the smoldering fires eventually turn into a 5-alarm blaze because our body can't cope with the low level of nutrients and the high level of toxins in our body. And so I want to make sure you also know that when I talk about nutrients, I'm not talking, so there are macronutrients and there are micronutrients. Our macronutrients, we all know, not that we all know, but we all know when I tell you they're fat, protein, and carbohydrates. And we need all of them. Those are our macronutrients. We need them in a certain balance. But what we forget is the micronutrients. Those are the vitamins, the minerals, the antioxidants, the antimicrobial, all of those beautiful micronutrients. That is what's going to build up our bank on the nutrient side. And so how do we do that? I have a 4-part blueprint for rooted nutrition. The first part is Eat real food, mostly plants. Okay. I told you it was simple. Eat real food, mostly plants. Your body knows what real food is. And it's something that was alive recently, like plants, fruits, whole grain, seed. Your body knows how to use them. Think about color, fiber, simplicity. It's not. And when you look at a whole food, it's something you can recognize. You can recognize an apple, but you can't recognize like something that has maybe a fruit juice that has maybe a little bit of apple juice in it. You can't see the apple in it, so it's not a whole food. You want to think about eating the rainbow, because color is what the phytonutrients in the plants, in the vegetables and the fruit, they all have different things that they do for our body, and we need to get a variety of them. That's all it is. So if you can think about emphasizing seasonal foods, eating the rainbow, then you're going to be on your way. And when we look at things like cravings, a lot of times the cravings are a result of a lack of nutrients. And when you're feeling like you want something to eat, if you're getting the nutrients, you're going to subside some of those cravings. The second part of the blueprint is juicing. So the reason why we do juicing is it's not a fad. It's a strategic way to deliver dense nourishment straight to your cells. So we're not starving ourselves. This juicing has nothing to do with fasting and starving to lose weight. It's really about replenishing. Remember that bank account? We want to get that nutrient bank account up with those micronutrients. And so to do that, we want to increase the juices. That's like an IV transfusion of nutrients. This is going to be the big deposit you're going to get into your body of nutrient. So we're talking raw juices. They're going to remineralize and rehydrate your deep tissue and repair your cells in your body. We're not talking about the fruit juice. I said the apple juice or the fruit juice. They're not talking about that. We're talking about getting your juicer out and juicing real whole foods. The third pillar of our blueprint is a liver detox. This is where we're going to clear out those toxins. Remember, I said the toxins on the other side of the bank account are increasing all the time. We live in a world full of toxins. There are toxins in just about everything around us. Food, especially if you're not using organic food, the air. I think you could be a nomad living in the middle of nowhere, and you could not escape the toxins in our world. And this is part of the reason why it becomes more important to be mindful of this, the bank account on the toxin side, and trying to lower it down. And so we want to stimulate our liver. Our liver is one of our big detox organs. So we want to stimulate our liver to remove those toxins. And as you're eating the real food and you're doing the real juices, what's going to happen as you nourish your body, you're flooding your body with nutrients, it's going to start cleaning out the cells that have like debris in them, and the toxins need to go somewhere. And our bodies can't necessarily clear it all out as fast as it's coming, as we're making the toxins. And so if we want to clear out more toxins and clean the house so that we have a clean house, then we need to stimulate our liver to reduce those toxins. And some of the signs of toxic buildup can be in your skin, can be in your mood, it can be in your digestion. And so when we're detoxing, we're cleaning up at a cellular level, and we're not talking about harsh protocols where you're taking all these crazy things to try and stimulate your liver. We're talking about, I can say my main way of getting rid of the toxins is a coffee enema. It stimulates the liver and gets more bile. It sounds gross, but it's actually not. You can get used to it. Yeah, it takes a bit to get used to, but that's an easy way to stimulate your liver to create more bile and get rid of those toxins. The fourth part of the blueprint is to supplement. And why are we supplement? Now, there's so many supplements out there. That's a billion-dollar industry all on its own. But we're talking about getting supplements because our body can't produce. So, for example, can't produce it, or our soils have become depleted from the conventional farming that we're doing is depleting the soil, it's depleting the nutrients. And so this is the reason why we need to add some additional supplements into our body. Also, our stress is high, we might not be absorbing them. And some of the nutrients we're talking about, vitamin B12, especially if you are eating a plant-based diet, you're probably not getting the vitamin B12. It's actually a microorganism that grows in the soil. And they're actually talking that everybody is getting to the point with all the depletion of our soil of needing to get vitamin B12. Magnesium is another one. Our omega-3 fatty acids is one. And for especially us Canadians, vitamin D3 as well. So we're talking basic supplements. We're not talking about all this fancy stuff. So that is the 4 pillars. And I want to say, I'm going to talk about the cycle that women have, the 28-day cycle, the moon cycle, or could be menstruation if you're still in that phase. Our bodies are actually craving different things during that time. If you're menstruating, you may need more comfort foods during that time. When you're ovulating, you might need lighter foods, more energizing foods, and you can tie this to your flow. And if you're on the moon cycle, if you are not menstruating, then, it's the same thing applies. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that as well. So we want to bust through this chronic disease. Doesn't show up overnight. It's not the lightning bolt that all of a sudden one day you have cancer. It's about slow depletion of your nutrients over years. And so when we finally get a diagnosis, that imbalance has usually been there for at least 10 years or more. And if you talk about cancer, it can take 10 to 15 years to become visible. But here's the good news. How can you fix it? By rebuilding that bank of nourishment and lowering that toxin burden, that bank account of the toxins. And also, really for me, it's about reconnecting with our natural rhythm. So I want to ask you something. I've been talking for a while now. When is the last time that you felt deeply nourished, not just full, but truly fueled? I don't know if you can put something in the chat And how does your body feel today? Oh, right. Kathy says last August. I'm going to work on that, Kathy. I know. Carol says she can't remember. And I think it's something, right? And so when we nourish ourselves deeply, something powerful happens and we can stop we can really make our body feel better and get it to be singing like we want it to sing. And I'm not going to sing for you. And next week, I'm doing a 5-day challenge, and we're going to dive deeper into these 4 pillars during that time. And I want to move on because it's not just about what we eat. And when we're feeling that Helen, I was just saying, sorry, I'm looking at the chat now. When you felt nourished, really nourished and not just full. And it's a while ago. And some of it, again, I want to say it's not just because I think you all know what to do. We all know what to do. And so then the question, this is what I started getting into and started really diving into, is what's stopping us? Why aren't we just doing all the right things? One, I think there's a lot of confusion out there. And that's why I wanted to boil it down. It's simple, really simple. Eat real food. Get those nutrients in your body. But the other side of it is, have you ever known what to do, what to eat, but you just can't get yourself to do it? And it's not because you're lazy. And it's not because you want to sabotage yourself, but it's because your nervous system is doing its job. It's keeping you safe, even when it doesn't match with your logic. So I want to dive into the nervous system next. So what is the nervous system? So this is our command center for detecting safety and danger. So this theory, it's polyvagal theory. It explains the nervous system like a ladder. So we move up and down this ladder. So there's the ladder that we're moving up and down all day long, and you can't jump. So let's say you have 3 rungs on the ladder. You can't jump from the bottom one to the top one. You have to go through them all. And maybe if you think about this as I'm talking, maybe you'll recognize some of the feelings that you have. And this ladder, when we move up and down, it's based on cues of safety or threats that we have. And how much do you think our body, of the information our body uses, is decided by our nervous system? What do you think that is? How much do you think it is? 50-50 with between our brain and our nervous system? What it is? Any idea? Think about it. Believe it or not, it's 80%. Kathy said 75. Well done, Kathy. It's actually 80% of the information our body uses to decide whether it's safe or not comes from our nervous system, and only 20% or so comes from our thinking brain. And this is why mindset tools aren't enough, because we have to go below the neck. And also, if you think about it, we have our conscious and our subconscious level is of what's going on, that we don't even realize the stories that are going on are about 95%, and only about 5% is our conscious brain. And by the way, when our nervous system isn't feeling safe, and we're in different, depending on what level we're at, our conscious brain is totally offline, right? I was thinking about that today, because when I'm doing presentations, I'll finish and I'm like, oh, I should have said this. Oh, I should have said that. Oh my gosh, I missed this. And I realized it's because my conscious brain is offline, because I am in a heightened state of anxiety. Anyway, so here, what are our 3 states of the nervous system? So the first one is called ventral vagal, or vagal. Ventral. This is where we are safe and social. This is the top rung of our 3-rung ladder. So we're calm, we're grounded, we're curious, we're connected. How does that feel? Can you think of a time when you're feeling grounded, you're feeling calm, everything is going well? The second rung in the middle is called our sympathetic. That's the fight or flight. I think we've all heard of that. This is where we get anxious, we might be overwhelmed, irritable. We have racing thoughts going on in our head. This is designed to shut down part of our body, like the digestion and our thinking brain, so that we could run away from danger, run away from the saber-toothed tiger. So in today's world, it's running away from our bills. It's running away from all sorts of things. Maybe the work we have to do. It's definitely not a saber-toothed tiger, but you get the idea. And so that's the second rung of the ladder. And the third rung of the ladder is called dorsal vagal. So that's dorsal. This is where you freeze or shut down. So if you can think of this, when you shut down, you feel numb, disconnected, fatigue, checked out. One of the ones I was doing a call with somebody, my coach on the nervous system regulation, she talks about this being your Eeyore state. If you think of Eeyore in Winnie the Pooh, very Eeyore. It's very sluggish. And one of the things that happened to me, and I didn't even realize, I was in an interview and the person was talking a mile a minute, and it was just overload. I couldn't take things in. And my brain started swirling. I just started swirling. And she says, yeah, you went into dorsal at that moment. That's swirling because I shut down, because there was too much coming in. So here's our 3 states. We've got our ventral, sympathetic, and dorsal. And we go through all of these all day, up and down. We move through them. all day long. So the goal isn't to stay calm, but what we want to do is recognize where we're at and how do we come back to that ventral. That's the thing. And if you think, here's one, your nervous system doesn't just shape your thoughts and your feelings, it actually shapes your biology. So when we're in our fight or flight, or the sympathetic, that's the middle zone, we're racing thoughts, we have tension, irritability, panic. That's when I yell at my cats when I'm busy, I'm trying to get something done, and they come and they jump on my table. I'm like, oh, get out of here. That's sympathetic. Oh, I can feel it now. You can feel it. So this is where your cortisol levels will elevate. So it's short-term energy. In the long term, it causes a lot of wear and tear. It triggers chronic inflammation. Remember that inflammation is those smoldering fires in our body. It disrupts our blood sugar, our hormone balance, and our digestion. And it can manifest as anxiety, insomnia, chronic pain, or autoimmune flare-ups. And so our body is constantly preparing for battle, and even if there's no real enemy there. Now, when we go into dorsal, this is where we're in that E or freeze or shutdown. That feels like heaviness, numbness, fatigue, brain fog. What's the point? Have you ever gotten into that where I just give up? I just want to put my head in the sand, put my head under the blankets and do nothing. So this is when your metabolism will slow down. You'll have lower immune function. You can get sick more often. It's going to deepen that inflammation over time. It's also linked to depression, burnout. Have you ever felt burnout? This is where it can come from. Thyroid dysfunction and fatigue syndromes. Burnout isn't just about mindset. It's about your body hitting the brakes because it thinks it's unsafe to keep going. So those are some of the things, and these can cause us to feel not well. It can influence our wellness. And so if we're in ventral, which is our safety and connection, we feel calm, we have clarity, we have connectedness, we feel confident. This is where we're going to support our digestion, our healing, our hormone balance. It's going to help lower that inflammation, get it down, cool off those fires, boost our immune function, and it's going to allow our body to absorb the nutrients that we're taking in and rest. And this is the only state where healing happens. But I'm going to take a guess that most of us aren't living here. We're just visiting. So you want to look at where are you living and where are you visiting? So just think about that for a moment. If you think about sympathetic, fight, flight, the dorsal where you're in freeze and shutdown, or ventral where you're in safety and connection, where are you living in your life? You can put it in the chat if you want, but you don't have to. Just keep it to yourself if you want. I think part of the big part is to notice it, to actually notice where you are living. So if you're wondering why your body isn't responding, maybe you're eating well. You say, I'm doing everything right with my food. Maybe your health is feeling unpredictable or you feeling stuck. It's not just from what you're doing. It could be this is a state of your body, where your body is in. And when we can regulate our nervous system, we can unlock the door to physical healing. We can clear all that static so that we can get our food, our rest, and our rhythm actually going. So our nervous system isn't just about, it's not sabotaging us, it's protecting us. But maybe it's using old data. And so what we might want to do is think about how we can clear that data. It's not about, I need to try harder. This is a sign that your nervous system is feeling stuck in defense. It's not about failing. So when we're looking at it and you think about and notice where you're at, do you have racing thoughts? Maybe you do. Is your breath shallow or deep? Do you feel heavy or light? A little bit tight or soft? And where does it feel? Safe? Do you feel on guard or do you feel frozen? So when we're in survival mode, our body prioritizes survival function, not digestion, not deep sleep, not energy restoration. So no matter how clean your food is or how perfectly you follow a plan, if your body doesn't feel safe, it's not going to absorb the benefits. And so this is why most programs will fail you, is because they ignore the nervous system state. They push you harder. Let's go. Let's get it done. Oh, you're going into, I don't know, a cold plunge. Maybe that's not what you need right now. Maybe getting up at 5 a.m. and going raw and getting all that isn't what you need. It's pushing you instead of restoring your regulation. And it might just trigger more shutdown by shaming. You didn't, if how many times you didn't do it perfect? You tried a diet. Oh my gosh, I did a diet every Monday. I started a new diet. And by Monday night, I cheated on my diet. And then I threw it all away until the next Monday when I started over. Wow. Can you see that cycle? Can you imagine that cycle? Oh my gosh. I was feeling shame every time I failed. I was shamed. And sometimes it's just because it's overwhelming. So instead of pushing through, we learn how to listen. When your body feels safe, your body can start to work with you and your health will become easier for you. And so in that 5-day challenge, we're going to explore more. We're going to chart our nervous system and how it works. And we can actually get our own nervous system map. We're going to work through how we can have our nervous system work for us. And then moving on to the hormones and our cyclical living. This one was like something that I learned recently that I just have to share with people. We live in a world that is designed around the male 24-hour cycle. It's the sun cycle. Men can regenerate in 24 hours. They just need that sleep. They wake up, they push through, grind, repeat every day. And that's how our workday, our fitness industry, and most health plans are built. Can you think about it? I spent 35 plus years working that 9 to 5. Oh, it wasn't 9 to 5. It was 9 to 9. Duh. But I spent that time in that hustle culture working. And sometimes it would work. Sometimes it didn't. But we've been taught to be consistent in this linear grind-based world. But I want to say our female bodies are designed for flow in cycles, not the 24-hour clock. We are aligned to the moon cycle, not the sun cycle. And I want to tell you about a really cool interview that I listened to on Gaia. If you ever have listened to Gaia, if you're interested, let me know and I will send that link to that interview. But here's what I learned. Most of the medical, and this is not just from the Gaia interview, it's from other places too. Most of the medical research is done on the male biology. 70% of medical research is only done on men. Women's natural rhythms are considered too variable. Get this one, blew me away. Even rat studies exclude females due to hormonal variability. So if you've ever felt misdiagnosed, misaligned, or misunderstood, it's no wonder, because all of the things we were taught about how to do a program around diet and exercise is all the research, all of that biohacking, most of that has been done on men and studied on men, not on women. So this leaves a massive blind spot on how women's bodies actually work. We've been taught to ignore our internal rhythm in favor of external schedules. But that's the very thing that's burning us out. Imagine that. I don't know if you can remember back to when you were younger. I remember like it was a taboo to talk about our cycle. Oh my gosh, like it was like, people call it the curse. Other word. Oh, she's on that. It's, oh my God. We need to learn to celebrate the phases of our cycle because it is our superpower. And it's not about inconsistency. We have four phases to our cycle. And it's not just like the menstrual cycle, it's the seasons. We have winter, spring, summer, fall. In the menstruation cycle, we have the menstrual, the follicular, the ovulatory, and the luteal cycle. In the moon, we have the new moon, the waxing moon, the full moon, and the waning moon. And they all align. And I have this beautiful chart. I didn't get it. I would love to share it. In winter, when you're in your menstrual cycle, or in the new moon, and if you're in menopause, you follow the moon cycle in new moon. This is when we are in rest, reflection. This is when we have amazing intuition. We can really key into that. In the spring, this is when it's the waxing mood, or when you're in your follicular stage of menstruation. This is when we have energy. We can do planning. This is when you probably don't want to sleep because you're like so wired in a good way. You're really motivated to do things. In the summer, this is when you're in your ovulatory phase, or the full moon. This is when we are about connection, expression, visibility. And then in the autumn, which is the luteal phase of the menstrual cycle, or the waxing moon, this is when we have focus, boundaries, and we complete things. This is when we can get things done. And so if we honor those cycles and learn to live within them, and this is when we will rise to the best of ourselves. And so oxytocin, I want to talk about oxytocin. We talk about cortisol. I think, who doesn't know what cortisol is? I think we hear about it all the time. This is our stress hormone. I want to turn that around on you. What about if we talk about flipping the narrative from cortisol, which is our survival, to oxytocin, which is where we are thriving? And if we're making oxytocin, we can't be making cortisol at the same time. Oxytocin is the love and connection hormone. And I had a speaker who talked on oxytocin, and I said to her, nobody talks about oxytocin. We all talk about cortisol. But oxytocin is what we get, and it's released through hugging, bonding, through laughter. For women, like, we're about community, through ritual, spiritual connection. Can you see the root coming in here? Nourishing foods, slow touch, moonlight walks. This is how we can increase our oxytocin as opposed to cortisol. And again, you can't make cortisol when you're making oxytocin. So when you choose softness, community, nature, you are choosing healing. So how do we boost our oxytocin? Physical touch. And I'm going to tell a little story. I learned about 3 years ago, I was at a retreat, and we did this breathing exercise that really got us like into places deep inside of us. And we were lying down, it was dark, our eyes were closed, and we were doing this breathing. And I had this stuff coming up, and just about this time, I didn't realize it, but just about the time, the facilitator went around, and all she did is lightly touch my legs and run her fingers down my legs. And I burst out crying. And what I realized is that I had been craving that physical touch and hadn't had it. So this is how we can boost our oxytocin. Warm food, ritual teas, nurturing care, singing, dancing, the music, spiritual practice. When I put the music on, it just lifts my energy so much. Being seen, feeling safe, and being part of a circle. These are all ways we can boost our oxytocin. And when we boost our oxytocin, we are healing in harmony. Cyclical living isn't a luxury, ladies. It's how we rebuild our nervous system, rebalance our hormones, and return to our power and to our health. And so in the challenge, we're going to work on honoring the different parts of our rhythm cycle. But maybe we're going to eat different during different parts of the cycle. Maybe we're not going to eat the same salad every single day, because maybe this is where our cravings come from. And so I want to end with this little part on cravings, very small part, is we've been conditioned to think of cravings as weaknesses, but cravings actually can be information. They're not about willpower, and they're actually about unmet needs. And when your body doesn't feel safe, resourced, or nourished, guess what it reaches for? Sugar for quick energy, salt for grounding, crunch for releasing tension, and late night snacks to soothe loneliness or stress. And by the way, I learned this recently, that all the blue light coming from our TVs is actually stimulating our craving center, our brain to crave food. So while we're sitting, no wonder people sit in front of the TV and they want a snack, because that's what's coming from the blue light. So cravings aren't a problem. They're actually a clue if we look at it that way. And this is why our also willpower doesn't work, because I know when I have certain cravings, it's, oh, why am the food is just calling for me. So the best way for me to deal with cravings is not to have the stuff in the house at all, because otherwise it calls and calls at my name until I actually eat it. Yeah. I'm not perfect, that's for sure. Anyway, so you know what to do, but you don't do it because this is some of the things in our body. You start, starting over every Monday. This is a good reason. We binge after a good day, or we beat ourselves up and we stay stuck in shame. All of this is why willpower doesn't work. And you don't want more discipline. What we want is more understanding our body, understanding the cravings, what causes them, why are we getting them? A lot of times the cravings we're craving nutrients, but we don't realize that. And we think we need more protein, or we think we need sugar or something. So what can we do instead? We can understand the root of our cravings. We can support ourselves with nourishing foods before we crash. When I am eating the 4 pillars of that blueprint, I have no cravings. I have no room to eat anything else. I am satisfied all the time. You can incorporate nervous system practices to regulate your urges, add pleasure, boost up that oxytocin, and create craving-free snack toolkit that will make success easy. So I want to ask you, what do you usually crave when you're stressed? Is that when you want to eat those sugary treats? Think about it. What about when you're feeling sad? You get into that dorsal state. I always think of that. This is when the tub of ice cream comes out. And that, like on TV, that's what they do, right? Oh, you're feeling in a certain way. Get your boyfriend just broke up with you, or something traumatic just happened. Tub of ice cream will make you feel better. Maybe for 5 minutes. And then you go into the shame. So we don't need more discipline. We need to have more connection. Our healing isn't about hustle. It's about coming home. And Susan had her tub of ice cream 2 days ago. I hope it made you feel better. You got to have I still have some left. I made last week of my in the kitchen, too tired to cook, little strawberry cheesecake, not cheesecake, strawberry shortcakes. Ooh, just take a couple of those out. I don't know if it does. You'll probably say, that's not going to do the trick. But anyway, it's something. Anyway, so I have a lot of love in my heart when I think about these things. This is something that I've been working on, soul searching for the last 2 to 3 years. It's why I didn't finish my book, because I didn't know how the story ended. I knew there was something to it. It's not just about how simple it is. It's about how it's not so easy. And it's not so easy because these are things that we're ignoring, or that are just something we need to come home to. And the thing that really gets me, and this is why it's all about rooted, it's about being grounded, is that a lot of the things that I'm talking about are things and traditions that our ancestors have passed down to us from years and years ago. And I guess we just thought we knew better, but maybe we didn't. So we're not talking about something fancy and flashy, maybe just a different way of explaining it. And so I have this amazing offer to invite you to join my 5-day challenge next week, where we will explore all of this in more detail. And I would love to know if it would be okay if I told you all about it. Are we good? All right, Susan's shaking her head. And I love that your treat. It was your treat. I love that. Yeah. Oh, we can all think about that. So I have the Rooted Reboot VIP experience, and this is what you get in the 5-day Rooted Reboot challenge. It's going to take place next week, Monday to Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern, just for an hour each day. And we're going to dive into these things in more detail. And if you can't attend live, you get the replays. And this is a value of $247. I have a private 30-minute health resolution call for you. That is just one-on-one, where we can look at one thing that's really holding you back when it comes to your health and how we can work through a plan for that. That is valued at $97. I have a reset action journal that's based on the moon cycles. That is $33. You get that as well. There's the Craving Crusher collection. Okay. This is for if you're having trouble with those craving. I have this great little cheat sheet, if you will, on some of the things you can do when you have a craving instead of going for the ice cream. And by the way, no judgment. Okay. No judgment at all. I get it, because I don't have ice cream in my house anymore, but I do the same thing. Mine is bread. Or pasta. Those are my things. I got rid of the sugar, but I didn't get rid of the bread and the pasta. So when I'm feeling some way, that's what I go for. So no judgment. And then we also have the Rooted Rhythm Blueprint. So this is about how we sync with the moon and the hormones as women, how you can look at where you are in either your own cycle or the moon cycle, and how you can work with it instead of being on that 24-hour, and educate the men. One of the speakers I had, she says, yeah, she has her cycle all mapped out, and her husband knows not to ask her about making big decisions in a certain time of her cycle. So we need to educate people on where our power is, not just this 24-hour reset clock. And so we have this Rooted Rhythm Blueprint for that. I also have a deep rest audio for you at night if you want something to soothe you before you go to bed. You listen to it just before you go to bed. And by the way, one of my heroes and mentors, Dr. Wayne Dyer, he always said, I love his thing, what you take in the last 5 minutes before you go to sleep is what you marinate in all night. So marinate in good thoughts. Even if you don't do the audio, marinate in good thoughts before you go to bed. And I just finished my Reboot Rooted in Real Health Summit. You get all of the replays of the summit. There's some amazing speakers that I interviewed and panels and all of those things that you get with it. And all of that, and I didn't total it up, but the value is around $688. And I think that we've already got Apple's already popped the offer in the chat. If you're interested, it's $47 to join me next week, or if you can't join me, to join me in video, but I'd love for you to join me in person. We are also going to talk about how you're not broken next week, and looking at that rhythm living map. There's so many things that we have available for you. And so if you want to join me, I think we've popped it in the chat. You can join me next week to reconnect. And I just want to say, you're all enough the way you are. You've always been enough. It's just coming back to your rhythm and celebrating who you are as a woman and as a special person. We're all special. And this has been something that I have really learned over the last 3 years as I've gone on my journey. And yeah, it's just amazing. And that's all I have to say, other than I want to know if there's any questions that anybody might have. Yeah, lots of information. Thank you. Now, I've got a few questions that have come up before that I would love to share with you. And then I am going to pop an amazing free gift for you for sticking it out and listening to everything I had to say. So the first question is this right for me if I've tried everything before? Believe me, I tried everything too, all the diets and stuff. And I want to say this isn't about dieting. I take that word out of your vocabulary. It's not about, it's also, I want to take out thinking about how losing weight either. If you're thinking, oh, I got to lose weight, come back to your rhythm and the weight will drop off. I know that's what will happen if you follow your rhythm and the blueprint on the nutrition. What if I can't make it? If you wanted to join and you can't make it, then you can get the replays for this. And then one of the other things that comes up, do I have to be plant-based? I love that one. The answer is no. I am plant-based, and that's what I advocate for in my life. But I understand that not everybody is interested in being plant-based, and no judgment. I'm all good with that. But I want to guide you towards real healing food wherever you're starting from. And to be honest, the first thing that I would suggest that you look at cutting out, if you're going to, ooh, I hate that's a negative, but if you're going to make some changes, add more fruits and vegetables, add more nourishment. But the processed foods are the ones, the first thing to look at removing. And I'm working on a detox, 6-week detox program that I'm going to be launching soon. I've been working on it for a few months. And will this help you to sleep? Yes, it can help you to really get more restorative sleep. And is this spiritual? The answer is it's not woo at all, but this is grounded. It's based on real evidence based. Everything is based on science. And again, it's about reconnecting with ourselves. And unfortunately, up until now, until recently, they didn't do a lot of studies on women. So we, other than reproductive, and even then, I've heard so many stories about women going to their doctor and their doctor saying it's all in their head. And that's just so horrible to hear. All right. So I'm going to pop a feminine leadership advantage guide into the chat that you can have. And it's really a little bit of a summary on why with our cycle, we have such beautiful gifts as women that we need to share and we need to really honor and bring out in the world. Instead of trying to fit into that hustle culture, we need to be ourselves and really come into our own. And I want to thank you guys so much for joining me today.